Tori Jenae is a trauma-informed relationship and confidence coach who helps women heal childhood and relational trauma, rewire their love maps, and build secure, self-trusting relationships from the inside out. Blending a background in psychology, leadership development, and energy psychology with somatic and spiritual practices, she guides clients through a framework, the Reclamation Method, to release old patterns, reclaim self-worth, and create deeply connected love and life. All super important, and all things we could do with a lot more of. Thank you so much for joining us. Just everybody's listening. I'm going to mess with the times of the clock. So poor Tori's been hanging around thinking, "What is this English guy? So rude. Where is he?" Anyway, I'm here now, so hopefully we'll get into it. So let me just start off with a hard one, I guess. So you shared already that you grew up with complex trauma and spent years in survival mode. And so when you look back, what would you say the earliest signs were that your nervous system was organizing your love life around survival rather than deep connection?
Oh gosh, I think my whole life was organized around that nervous system dysregulation. I think some of the easiest signs that I saw in myself was I always felt that feeling inside like you're late, like you're in a hurry, like something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. And a lot of people describe that as like low grade anxiety, but I didn't know. I was in my 20s. I was a young psychology student, and I was always like super type A, super controlling, a very high perfectionist. And those things aren't really negative in the world, but like we kind of almost get um, rewarded for that behavior. And a lot of times now I know it's a trauma response. Like I was trying to be perfect. I was trying to be good enough. I was trying to be in control so I wouldn't have to be afraid. I was trying to, you know, be always perceived as incredibly strong because I am, but I never wanted to be seen as weak. So those were some of the things that I felt inside that, like, especially when I was younger and dating, I would definitely like push people. Like I would only let them get so close, and I was actually what they call an avoidant attacher, and I know this now. And it would be like if they get too close, I would just run. I used to joke with my friends when I was younger that I was like the road, the Bugs Bunny cartoon, the Roadrunner. It's like they'd get too close, I'd be like beep beep, and I'd be gone. So it took a lot of internal work growing up the way that I did, to really see that. But it was really a felt sense. And that's what I find in a lot of people that I work with now is it's like they might even be outwardly successful, but they know something's not quite right. Their relationships aren't working out and they can't figure out why they're repeating certain patterns. Like, why do I keep getting Mr. Emotionally Unavailable and all these kinds of things? And that's really to do with our internal state more than anything else.
And do you think our early experiences with love and relationships and intimacy, is it almost a danger that they form the path or the map for our future relationships?
Yeah, I mean, they do form it. And that's what's so confusing for some people is like
Mm.
your earliest relationship is with your parents, whoever raised you. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, an auntie, that's the first experience we have of having a relationship with another person. And
Mm.
so that informs particularly our attachment, which is huge in dating and love. And I believe, and there, different psychologists would fight me on this, but I truly believe from my own experience that you can heal your attachment style, but it has to have that awareness and that understanding. But also our early relationships, like sometimes I've worked with people who they had a terrible relationship in secondary school or grade 10, 11, and they don't think that it's really affected them, but it has. And so it's really being able to look at ourselves more holistically and say, like, okay, what's happening for me now?
Mm.
And when's the first time I remember feeling that way? Like maybe I feel invalidated or criticized by my partner all the time. And I'm need to look back and say, like, when's the first time I remember feeling criticized by someone? And sometimes if you're honest enough with yourself, and we're not trying to blame your parents or anyone around
Mm.
you, but it is, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. Um, like, oh, my mom was actually, and this wasn't my experience, I hear this a lot, but it's like my mom was all kinds of things, but um, maybe your mom was really critical. And now you've got, every time you hear criticism, there's a part of you that's so unhealed, and you hear that criticism, and it's really difficult for you to hold.
Yeah.
Those primary wounds end up as our survival strategies and the way that we respond
Hmm.
unconsciously to other people's behaviors. And, you know, my story is pretty intense. Both my parents had addiction issues and were not healthy people. My mom actually conceived me. Luckily, she was clean at the time, but my mom found out she was pregnant with me in a heroin rehab facility. So the way that I grew up is pretty insane. To look back now to say that I have 3 degrees in psychology and that I live in Beverly Hills, California was never my path. And to use the British terms, like I kind of grew up like a counselor state kid.
So, what do you think? What do you think made you follow a very different path then? Because, like I say, we tend to follow model behavior, and we tend to do the things that people that we know and situations we're in dictate, or at least indicate. So, what was it about you that made you into the 3 psychology degrees, living in Beverly Hills, looking incredible? Why?
It's a question I've asked myself a lot and tried to deconstruct because it's so just to give you an example, like my older sister, she went down the same path and she didn't even make it to the age of 40. So she passed a long time ago. And so, yeah, we typically, it's very normal. And so I never want to shame anyone who did follow that path of their
Mm,
parents. It's actually more that's what we do. We
yeah.
monkey see, monkey do. Like we, I grew up in an environment where you could absolutely do that. I think there was a couple factors. One was that I had a younger brother that I felt very protective of, and I think that turned me into the responsible one. And I see this a lot, the what we call the parentified child, meaning that I was taking care of my mom a lot of the time. That made me like overly responsible. So I felt like I had some kind of agency or choice. And I would always look at my family and think, this is so hard. This is so difficult. I don't want to be like that. And so for some reason, I kept making radical choices to break that pattern in my family. And so the first one was I left home when I was 17. I never got any other support. I took care of myself from that moment on. And like now I'm a financially independent woman. So I'm proud of that for sure. But that was really hard and it sucked. I had not even graduated high school when I left home. So I had to figure out how to do everything on my own. And that gave me a different kind of confidence. And then I also think being responsible for my brother and wanting to make a better life for him. He's 7 years younger than me. And I feel like that really, I broke the pattern for us. Like he started drinking when he was younger in his 20s and stuff, but now he's completely sober. And that was another thing that I did too is when I turned 18, I decided to become like that drinking and all that stuff and drugs were just not ever going to be for me. And so I feel like if you make a radically different choice, no matter the path of your family, you're the person who's meant to break it. Even if you wake up 10 years later down the line of addiction or whatever, whatever it is, and you decide to wake up and make a change, you are breaking that lineage for your family. You're stopping the trauma. My mother, so my older sister, my mother, and my grandmother actually, my mom's mom actually overdosed as well. So I come from a long line of people. I'm the oldest living member in my family.
Wow. that's, a, that's quite a lived experience. It's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, from a psychological perspective, that you can have families, generations of families, situations, environments where people are following a certain path, and then there's one person in the family who decides, no, that isn't going to be my path. That's what do you think it is that singled you out to be that person, and not your sister, and obviously your brother had you as a role model, sort of following your footsteps. But why do you think some people can break the mold or change the direction, and some people can't?
I mean, if we go from down the psychological route, it's some people have more innate resilience.
Okay.
And that is kind of like Carol Dweck's work out of Stanford. She talks a lot about like mindset, and some
Hmm.
people have that innate ability. I've actually found a lot more of the answers in spirituality, and I didn't grow up religious or anything like that. So this was really self discovery. I went down I've studied with yoga gurus. I've studied everything from Kabbalah to like I spent 20 years going down the Buddhist yogic paths to really understand the mind and meditation and mindfulness and how to do all these things. And so when I look back at like this path of my particular soul, it was like I was here to break that lineage. And that was kind of like it's part of our purpose. But I think it's also really difficult because we can feel exiled from our families. And I definitely was. I wasn't, I would go to school and I would try to get good grades. And I was under a lot of duress because we always moved all the time. And obviously things vacillated between neglect and abuse. And it was never a stable environment for me to really learn. But I always tried to do the right thing and learn and go to school and do the things that I could. I was not perfect, trust me. I didn't always finish things but I do look back and I say like, oh wow, like I tried and despite my family. And I think that's the best that we can always do is I have seen in a lot of people, they either kind of go down the identical path of their family or they actually kind of rebel against it. And what was funny is my rebellion was actually to not go down the
Yeah.
party path, because I
Yeah.
could have easily done that. Like my mom was the kind of mom who like when I was 15, she'd ask my friends if they had any weed or coke on them, and they were like, your mom's so cool. And I'm like so embarrassed, like, because I just wanted so bad to be normal and to be connected and have a normal family or any kind of family, really.
Mm. It's hard though, isn't it? 'Cause like, so if it's the other way around, where you have a relatively normal, sort of straightforward sort of family, white picket fence type thing, and you rebel against that and do something crazy, it's almost more acceptable. The other way around, there's almost that feeling from the family. It's like, well, who do you think you are? Do you think you're better than us? And what's wrong with our life? Why are you trying to go against it? And it's yeah, there's that defensiveness from the family that makes it hard for some people to sort of break away from it. But
Yeah, and I heard those exact things verbatim. You think you're better than us. Who do you think you are? You know, you think you don't stink. All these kind of like horrible things that
yeah,
they
yeah,
would say when I was trying to do the right thing. But then it's like as I got older, then they would all ask me for money. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was always a tough position to be in, to be outside of that system.
Mm.
So it was like kind of being used on both sides.
And you said at the beginning that when you entered into relationships that you always held something back and you went so far, and then the roadrunner mentality, it was like beep beep and you were gone, sort of thing. When did you first feel comfortable to give yourself to a relationship and feel safe and held and nurtured within a relationship? When did that happen?
In my 20s, I got kind of lucky, honestly. Like, somehow the universe had another plan for me because I hadn't done an incredible amount of work. I was in school for psychology, and so I was understanding my trauma and my attachment style, like cognitively. And that's
Yeah.
the first step. You have to understand it. You have to see it in yourself.
Hmm.
But I ended up meeting my ex-husband, and we were together for 20 years, and we're still, we had an amicable divorce, so we just grew apart. But I should say, I was very young. I was 23 when I met him. But he was just a safe person. He was a calm, easygoing guy. He had his own stuff, of course, everyone does. But like, he, I actually had a very weird experience to open me up. So I'll tell that short story because it's kind of funny. We had been dating a couple months, and I woke and we woke up together and my eyes were completely swelled shut. I couldn't see, and he had to take me to the emergency room, the hospital, and I had to completely trust him to guide me through, to put my hand on the paper and sign. And it was all these things that like I'd never done in my life. I'd never been that vulnerable with anyone. And because of the way he showed up, like he literally like carried me out of that hospital. And luckily, I'm a small girl. I'm only like 5'3". He's 6'3", so he's a big guy. But he literally like picked me up, carried me out to the car, carried me into the hospital, carried me. Like there was this moment of absolute vulnerability where it's like I had no choice but to trust him in that moment. And that was it. That was like my first crack opening of like, oh, somebody, you can rely on somebody, because I never grew up feeling like that. So I never felt like I could be vulnerable with anyone because no one had ever shown me, other than my brother's grandmother, who was lovely, like she was very loving, but she's still just from her era and stuff, she wasn't really reliable in the way that like I'd never experienced that, like a parent who, other than her, who would actually like show up if you called, or make me food. So it's like to have this person go to this level to help me was such a big thing. And that was really what started to open my mind of like, okay, I'm going to explore this. I'm going to see. And it took time. I mean, I would say the
Mm.
first 5 to 7 years of our relationship was still me like kind of, this, what we call, now I know, it was kind of this push pull where I'd like get closer and then pull myself away a little bit, then get closer and then get freaked out. And so luckily I had the cognitive understanding of what I was doing to stop myself. But that's the hard part. That's when and then it becomes like really dropping into the body. But one thing I know for sure now is that we are traumatized in relationship and we are subsequently healed in relationship. And that's even what therapy is. It's a therapeutic relationship so that you can have someone hold space for you, help you calm your nervous system, see your patterns in a safe place. And if you can experience that safety with another human,
Mm.
it's even deeper because you get to see like, oh, some people even see that for the first time with animals. To have that unconditional, like safe feeling. Like we have to experience it in our body to really get it. We have to experience it in a relationship to really start to like I would say there's the longest journey we ever take is from our head, the 18 inches from our head to our heart. We can understand I have this pattern. We can understand I should trust someone, that this person's not going to hurt me. But until we feel it, until we see it, until they prove to us in some ways, and that's okay. Trust has to be earned. Then we really get that embodied sense of it, and we can start opening cracking the door open to the heart space.
I love that. It's very interesting. Some of the things you said then, 'cause it's one of the things I've sometimes struggled with when I've been in therapy. And therapy in the UK,
Oh, I know. I
it's
have a
still
lot of
fairly
clients from.
unusual if you have therapy. It's like therapy. What's wrong with you? It's like, okay. But it's not a sort of. It's not like you have a dentist, you have a doctor, you have a therapist. We have a dentist and a doctor, and that's pretty. But what the thing I've found when I've been to therapy, and it's probably my fault for not exploring deeply enough, is exactly as you said. These are completely the wrong words, but my sort of head's fixed. I'm okay here, but then
Hmm.
everything else, everything below my neck, isn't fit. And I carry my tension, my grief, my anger, my distress, whatever, in my gut, in my stomach. I can literally
Hmm.
feel it. I can describe the shape of it. I can sense the color of it. I can really, really feel it. But I think one of the things that I think a lot of traditional therapy, if I can use that word correctly, does or doesn't do, rather, it doesn't bring in the sort of somatic sensation of the body. And I
Hmm.
wondered, yeah, just if you could touch a little bit on how important it is to where you just talked about it really, that feeling, and to be able to release things in the body and to experience things in the body and recognize that it's not just about that grey mass that sits in our head. It's about
Yeah.
the whole totality of us. Gosh, that's a very long question, but does that make sense?
No, yeah, absolutely. And you're describing like something that actually is like a huge issue I have with the therapeutic world is we stop at the mind. We think we're
Mm.
treating the mind and even the brain as a chemical messenger. It's like people are so complex. The brain is so complex. We understand very little, even antidepressants. If we get a 5% improvement, statistically, they think that's good. I don't know about you, but I don't want to feel 5% better. Like that's not. And I know in the UK because I actually have a lot of clients there. The methods are more what we call evidence based and traditional, and we do stop at the mind. And what we know now and what we've known for a while in the deeper trauma space is like the most famous book on trauma is called The Body Keeps the Score,
Yes,
and
couple
it's
message.
because yeah, it's held trauma is truly held in the body. So someone can go to therapy for many years and still have a negative response. And the best example I can give a lot of people that they can visualize is like you can have this amazing war hero who can go through life and be so great, but then he hears a car backfire or a firework and he hits the ground because that is stored in his body how to keep him alive. It's like your brain is not broken, it's keeping you safe. And so if it has a negative experience from the past of someone doing something to hurt you, no matter
Mm.
what, it doesn't matter how dramatic it is, because a lot of us think that it has to be horrible. It could be like someone just criticizing you, someone putting you down, someone telling you how unsmart you are, all these kinds of like you're not bright, you're not brilliant. Anything that reminds us of that, the brain has coded into the body, that's not safe, that's not okay. And I can give an example in my own life that was really interesting. When my mom used to go out sometimes when I was a child, she would come home and like something negative would often happen because she would be drunk or high. And so there might be a fight. I might have to defend my brother. And then I found when I was married and in my 20s, like 28 years old, like, so this is like, long time later, my ex-husband, someone would go out and have, pints with the boys and come home late and nothing was going to happen, but my body would be ready to
Yeah.
fight him. And I didn't even understand it. Like, why would I be so amped up? It's because my body had this felt, lived sense of when someone is coming home from a pub late at night, I am not safe. And it didn't matter who it was. It just mattered that's what happened to me before. And so that's a more extreme example, but I've seen it in so many ways. And so I love to redefine trauma for people as any time you felt disconnected from safety and it changed what you believed about yourself or about life when it came to like you being okay.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, without that somatic piece, we don't really heal fully.
No, and just so two stories from me. Both of them,
Mm-hmm.
are very, very personal, but obviously they're about me.
Yeah.
So one just on antidepressants. So I was on antidepressants for 30 years, and I came off them about 7 months ago. I just decided that I had enough, and I did it properly. And I would highly,
Oh,
if
good.
anyone listening is on antidepressants, please don't just stop, because the worst
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
the
Taper
worst
off
thing
like
to
the
do.
slowest you could possibly do.
Absolutely, it's very hard, and it is a very it's very hard to come off them. And I came off them, and I don't know whether I'm feeling much better now or not, but it was a little bit like you said, that sort of 5% better thing. It was. I got to a stage after 30 years where you think, well, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel. Am I supposed to feel?
Mm-hmm.
Is this good? Is this
Yeah,
level good, or should I feel like this? Should I feel like this, or what is it? And the one thing I've noticed is that I do have more emotions now. So I'll see something on television and I can cry, and I can laugh, and my emotions are slightly more variable. And I don't know whether I'll go back on
that's
them or
good.
what, but it's ridiculous to be on them for 30 years and the doctor just keep re-prescribing. It's just ridiculous. And I worked out, I think I'd taken something like 9 kilos of antidepressants over the course of the time, and it's
But
crazy.
that's like you and 50% of America. Like that's what happens now. And there's so many other things because I've studied functional medicine and Eastern
Mhm.
medicine and so many things, and I really do this holistically.
Mm.
Trauma and chronic stress kills the gut, it kills the microbiome. Children who've been in foster homes have no microbiome. I had none. I had to completely rebuild my gut. So before antidepressants are absolutely something that is necessary for a lot of people, sometimes even to do the work to heal, we
Mm.
have to give. I love the saying of like it's a bridge to help me
Mhm.
get from where I am. And there are places that are very low, but like before antidepressants become the primary answer, I want to have someone's iron checked, their thyroid checked, so their ferritin, their iron, their vitamin
Yeah.
D, their omega-3 index is huge. I
Mm.
take 2 grams of omega 3s every day in fish oil because that is so good for your brain. And it is because I come from a long line of depression and anxiety. Obviously, all these people weren't addicts for no reason. They had, like, my mom was later in life diagnosed with bipolar. And so there's also things like SAM-E. Most of Europe uses that before they use antidepressants because it actually helps with methylation and detoxification of the body. Inflammation causes depression. Hormones cause depression. Low testosterone, low estrogen, low progesterone causes anxiety. I do this with my clients. I go through, let's check everything physiologically
Mm.
comb through the past psychologically, and we will get you better somehow. But I'm going to look under every stone, and there's nothing that I will not learn or figure out to find like what is causing it. And like for you, you also hold your tension in your shoulders and your muscle system.
Mm.
Because like I don't know, I'm pretty into I read patterns pretty quickly. So your gut. So for you, it'd be like I would put you on a great probiotic. That would be really important for you to rebuild that system. You feel everything through your gut, so you're very what we call sentient. You're very empathetic. And
Mm.
what happens when you're on a antidepressant is that gets lowered. So in some ways, it makes life easier, but you also don't feel as alive. And life is like I love to say, like think of it as a heartbeat. If I'm flatlined, I'm dead. So that's never what I want. I want the ups and downs. I want to feel moments of joy. I want to feel moments of sadness because that means I'm alive. And that's normal. And I'm always going to come back to that base, but this is normal. We don't want this like flat affect of either high all the time or feeling nothing. We want to be able to feel the highs and the lows, the dark and the light. That is what makes us feel alive. And there's so many amazing all neurotransmitters are made from amino acids. So making sure we're getting enough high quality protein in our diets. That can be protein powder, that can be collagen. But even like if I'm dealing with depression, like I said, SAMe, L-tyrosine is very calming. L-tyrosine will really help with like ADHD, dopamine issues, addiction. Then we've got other like L-theanine is very calming. I can take that at night with some magnesium glycinate that will really help calm the system. So there's so many natural alternatives, but obviously the pharmaceutical companies don't make money. So and these
Mm.
are all very inexpensive options as well. But like I said, there's so many things like trauma, chronic stress, divorce, loss of a parent. These not only steal your psychological wellness, but they steal your physical wellness. And I've been through so much physically. Like I've had to rebuild my gut. I had Addison's disease, which they told me I'd never heal from and I would need to be on medication the rest of my life. I'm not. I started to make my own cortisol again. Basically, my adrenals got burnt out from so much stress. They just stopped working. They were just like dead in there. So I had to like wake them back up. Like at one point I lost my eyebrows because of, like my thyroid wasn't working right. So I've kind of been through hell and back and I've learned a lot through that process. But like what we know more than anything is like the body wants to heal and we are hardwired to connect and we need that more than anything. Harvard did the longest study around on health and longevity and happiness. And the number one predictor, despite smoking, despite poor decisions in your health, was deeply connected relationships. It's it was an 8-decade study done following the lives of these people, and so it was amazing. They did it for it's like one of the longest studies ever performed over and thousands of people, and that was the primary predictor was deeply connected real relationships.
Gosh, okay. I'm feeling quite emotional. The and you touched on something that really concerns me. I think, and I think, and I'm trying to give some context. So
Mm-hmm.
we have the ability technologically to connect with people all over the world. You're in Beverly Hills, I'm in London. Apart from the time difference that I messed up, we're talking, we see each other, I can see you, we're connected as such.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, we increasingly read about a loneliness epidemic. I think 57% of Americans eat every meal alone. 45% of Americans and people in the UK say they don't have a best friend. The stats go on, and we are living in more single person households. The stats go on and on and on. So it's very worrying where our biggest predictor of happiness, healthiness, well being, and being who we have the ability to be is a deep relationships or relationship. And we seem to be at a time in our society where we're almost pulling away from that. Yes, we have social media, but I think that's not necessarily a good thing. We just don't feel as connected as we could be. And yeah, I'm not sure what the question is, but that's just a real concern I have, is that exactly as you say, relationships are so important, but we almost seem to be pulling away from relationships.
We are. We've lost, the younger generations have lost the skill.
Yeah.
20 somethings right now are having less physical intimacy and relationships than ever before. Marriages are down. I read that like OnlyFans is making more money than anything on the planet. That is someone has monetized and hijacked intimacy from us, and we've allowed it. Like that's insane to me. Like,
I heard a stat the other day that I think 15% of 18 to 25-year-old women in America have an OnlyFans account, as in they create content. It's extraordinarily high, 15%. That's like, one in every 7 of your friends, if you're that sort of age, has an OnlyFans account where they're creating content, and millions of people spend money on that content, and it's not
mm-hmm.
a real relationship.
No, and it's
Unfortunately.
hijacking their brain. What they've found recently in research, particularly in men who watch a lot of content, we'll say, they can develop attachments
Yeah.
to certain stars more, and so they can't connect with other people. And when they watch too much content, their arousal pathway actually, it looks like in a functional MRI, like a brain injury, because one pathway gets so overdeveloped that nothing in real life is exciting enough for them. And so again, another loss of intimacy, another loss of, like, that's the deepest form you can connect with any other human. And the
Mm.
fact that that's been taken from us to be monetized by someone you'll never see, never meet. Like, we are hardwired for connection. We grow up in tribes. That's why it feels so painful when we're rejected, is because, you know, 100 even to 1,000 years ago, you got rejected from the tribe, you died alone. That was
Yeah.
like, so like that's so important for us to have connection. And we need another human, another nervous system. Like there's something called heart coherence. Like we don't feel whole. Like I have clients, if they're struggling with like depression or loneliness, I'm like, I need you to schedule a date with anyone. I don't care if it's like go volunteer, but you need to be around people. And you've
Mm.
got to have at least 1 to 2 people in your life who truly care about you. Because you're right, we have, dating. Like I got divorced about, I don't know, I was like 43-ish or so. But anyway, I'd never been on a dating app in my life. And so I went into this world of just like this fake lying. Like it was just crazy to me, having come from the like dating in the 2000s to also dating, all of a sudden dating in like 2023 or 2020. You know what I mean? It was like,
Yeah.
what is happening? People were so disconnected, so emotionally unavailable. I felt like I went on, gosh, like 15 first dates, and I felt like I just had to be a therapist most of the time. It was really intense. I was just like, at some point, I was like, I need to create like an emotional finishing school for men. Like, there's
Yeah.
just a lack of skills, and there's a lack of connection, and there's like this, everybody's just chasing validation and they're addicted to it. And it doesn't mean anything. Like, I could get 500 guys online to tell me I'm hot. I don't care. Like, it doesn't make me feel, that's not going to keep me warm at night. Like, that's not going to be someone to build my life with. That's not, so it's like, it kind of came out of this, having been in a relationship for almost 20 years and then having met people who'd never even had a serious relationship, so many, especially in Los Angeles. And I know bigger cities like London, because I've got
Mm.
clients in London, Los Angeles, New York, Dubai. So I hear it everywhere. It's like we are superficially connected, we are artificially connected, but we are starving for actual connection. Everything has been hijacked from us to make money, and that's what we don't see. Intimacy has been taken from us. Cooking our own food has been taken from us, but it's all to give our money away. And no one can see that. Like, people just don't see that. Like, I get that it makes life easier, but like, I've had a really tough life and I've been through a lot of shit. And the one thing I can say for sure, there's only 3 things that are going to matter in your life when you're on your deathbed. One is, what's the contribution that you've made to the world in whatever way, whether you've been a mother or you've had an amazing career. What have you contributed? What, as the yogis say, what is your dharma? Number two is the experiences you've had. Where have you been? Where have you gone? What are the things that have made you want to look at your phone less? And the most important is who loved you and who do you love? That's all that's going to matter. I've lost so many people in my life, and I've talked to people on their deathbed. That's all that will matter. And we have given up almost all of those things. Even when we're traveling, people are Instagramming the shit out of it. And it drives me insane. It's like, be present, experience this, encode it in your nervous system, and then take a quick picture.
It's funny with that. It's one of my big bugbear. And I have a phone and I use it, and I'm not trying to be holier than thou or anything, but I sort of obviously Taylor Swift just finished her sort of multi-billion-dollar global tour, and you watch the audience watching Taylor Swift, and 95% of them are watching Taylor Swift through their phone.
Yes.
And then another example would be, we've recently had a new Pope announced, first American Pope, and people were in St. Peter's Square watching the announcement through their phone. This is not the Swifties. This is nuns and older people and whatever else.
Everyone.
You're probably never going to watch that footage again. Somebody else has got a better film of it than you have, and it sounds very trite, doesn't it? Just be there. Just feel the experience. And exactly like you say with travel, and you go to the Louvre in Paris, or you go to the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and you see people literally just taking photographs of the Mona Lisa, or photographs of a Jeff Koons exhibition. You think, well, what are you doing? Just look at it. Your memory in your head is going to be far, far more powerful than a photograph could be.
Yeah. And that memory is like
when I was growing up, I think there's probably 20 photographs of me before I was 13. We just didn't take them. It just didn't take them. We just photograph once a year at school, and occasionally there'd be a photograph your parents would take a whole day, get it developed, and that was it. Whereas now, I think my kids are 19 and 16 now. Oh gosh, I think Madeline, who's the 19-year-old, must well over 10,000 photographs of her before she was 10, which is wonderful. But I think the memories are the important thing, really. And being there and not living through your phone feels like a better place to be, really.
Absolutely. Because that's what makes our life rich. That's what gives us joy. That's what gives us happiness. And we have to cultivate that. And that presence is the only thing that really allows us to truly experience it.
Well, one of the things that perhaps on the surface feels counterintuitive is that you can have somebody that's very high achieving, has an amazing career, is a very successful sports person, a very successful CEO, whatever, just super successful. But they struggle with feeling worthy of love, which in one way you think, gosh, but you're managing 1,000 people, a multi-billion-dollar company. You're saying you don't feel worthy of love. And do you find that with people that come to you, that they really are high achieving in one part of their life, but still there's a gap in another part of their life?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I see that quite often, and they don't usually know why, or they can't usually name it. But I've found that difficult experiences, especially in childhood, or kind of that feeling of lack, is a big driver in what makes them so successful. It's like there's a difference between the wound driving us and healthy drive and an unhealthy drive. And if I have a huge hole in my heart that I'm never going to be good enough, then man, I'm going to push everything on the planet to try to make myself feel good enough. If I have this fear that I'm never going to have enough money, I'm going to keep amassing money until I don't, and like I just can't stop until I fill the hole in my heart. I will always be looking to the outside world to fill it, and I will always be unhappy. And so I always say to people, if I'm not healthfully, and trust me, I was that girl too. When I was 30, I was working in corporate. I'd already hit 6 figures. This was a long time ago. That was a lot of money for a woman my age. Like I was making well over 100K. I had the house, the car, the husband, the degree. I'd done everything. I checked every freaking box I was supposed to. I was being flown on a private jet to different locations for my company. Like kind of quote unquote had it all, and I was still
Mm.
so unhappy. And it's because none of that stuff was in alignment with who I was or what I was actually here to contribute to the world. It was completely what I thought I was supposed to do and what I was supposed to have to be happy.
And then some of it goes back to that word you had before, that validation, where we seek external validation and don't really think about, well, what is going to what is going to bring me harmony and peace and love internally. And a lot of that is, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, is the comparison culture, whether it's social
Mm-hmm.
media or neighbors. We see somebody else's car or somebody else's house, somebody else's bikini, somebody else's meal, and we think, oh, I want that. I should have that. And thinking, but is that going to make you happier?
Oh my
That's the
gosh, I love.
challenge.
Yeah, it's so true. And like Jim Carrey said it best. He said, I wish everyone could be rich and famous so that they realize it's not the answer. Like, because like I work with people, I live in LA, like a lot of my clients are one
Absolutely.
degree from all of these A-list people. I literally consult for a talent agency here that reps all of like, they can call Charlize Theron if they want to. You know what I mean? Like it's so, and I go in and I kind of do like a kind of a coaching day. Like I go in for 6 hours and I help everybody. And at the end of the day, it's like we all have the same problems. We all want to be happy. And that happiness is only inside of us. I always try to tell people like nothing outside of you. You lose the weight, you will still feel the same. You move to another city, you will still feel the same. You get the money, you will still mess up shit the same way you have. Like nothing changes until you do. And like my dad is from Mexico, and he's Native American technically. So like in my ancestry DNA, I'm like 30% Native American, like United States American, Native
Mhm.
American. So I've done a lot of studies with those people in the South, and there's a beautiful story that they tell. And it says that at the beginning of time, all the animals came to the Great Lake to talk to the Creator. And the Creator said to all the animals, I have something very precious and sacred that I need to hide from the humans. And every animal steps forward and tells their story of where they would hide it. The grizzly bear says, I'll hide it in the deepest cave in the mountains. And says, the Creator says, somehow the humans are going to make it there. Trust me. And the whale says, I'll swim, I'll take it to the deepest part of the ocean. He said, somehow the humans, trust me, that they'll look there. He's like, they will look. The Creator finally says, after every animal says, like, no matter where we hide it on the planet, like the humans will look there. So finally, Wise Owl steps forward and says, hide it in their heart where they'll never think to look. And that was the answer to like everything we look for is actually inside of us. Our happiness, that hole in our heart, that thing that we need to fill, that's the only thing that will make us happy. And that's the point of that story. We will search the whole world to find our happiness when it was hiding inside of us the whole time.
To move on from that, you've developed lots of wonderful tools and techniques and things that really help people. And I wonder if you could talk through a little bit about your reclamation method, and also whether there are particular phases that people find it harder to progress through than others.
Yeah, for sure. So the reclamation method is really like reclaiming the self. So I go deep into
Yeah.
that. So past beliefs and difficult experiences and how do we rewrite that. I also do nervous system work, something called energy psychology, which is kind of like neuroscience and acupressure had a baby.
Mhm.
It really helps. It's kind of like think of it as exposure therapy. I'm thinking about something that stresses me out and I'm calming my nervous system. So I'm allowing the brain to file those experiences and not be so reactive. So that way I don't have an unconscious reaction to things.
Mhm.
So it might be like, an easy one would be like if I got mugged on the street by knife point, then I can think about that over. Like maybe now every time I walk down the street, I'm always looking over my shoulder. But if I can
Mhm.
get the nervous system calmed down, I can release that hypervigilance. And we actually have that kind of response to a lot of things that we're just not aware of. And so I do this really like deep 5-step process of going through like reclaiming and then ultimately rising into who I truly am. So really releasing a lot of the patterns and the programs. And I think one of the hardest things is the first step is ultimately just having the awareness. every I've never met a person who doesn't have some kind of trauma that's affected them, but every single one of them says they don't. so, so I think that's the place in which, like, we know something's wrong, but we don't really know the cause. And so I think two places that people struggle is seeing it in themselves, and that's normal because we can't see the picture inside the frame, and seeing how they correlate. I'm always delighted when I have a client and I can explain to them, like, do you see how that pattern used to happen with your dad? Or do you see, like, you told me about your mom, she's this type of person, like, it looks like you're dating those kinds of women. And they're like, ah,
Right.
it's like the light bulb goes on. And so these things that kind of elude people for years, like, it's all encoded inside of you. It's all in your history. And so I love to give people, especially on podcasts, I always call it the ABCs. So the first step is to start becoming aware. What are a few things in your life? Just think of, like, what's nagging you, like what's really bothering you the most. Now I want to become aware. Okay, this is what's bothering me. When's the first time I remember feeling like that? What are some things in my life? Like, let's say it's confidence. I'm really struggling with my confidence. I'm not speaking up at work. I'm not, like, I want to really start a podcast, or I want to write a book, but I'm not doing it. Because that's what I hear from a lot of people who are amazing, but they're just like, they know they're capable of more and they're not doing it.
Yeah.
So kind of like, what were those difficult experiences that knocked my confidence down, or what are the things that didn't work out, or even sometimes when I go to do it, what are the thoughts that I have? Like, even when I started my business, I was terrified. I was so afraid I wasn't going to make money. I wasn't going to be successful. I was going to fail terribly and have left my corporate job and messed it all up. And ultimately, that was my life experience, right? Things didn't always work out for me. They rarely, actually, honestly, still to this day, I always get challenged more than anybody I know. I always joke about that. Like, I just need to survive, like, a plane crash and a boat wreck, and I'm going to be like, I can say I've experienced every trauma on the planet. So, like, but I also truly believe that, like, the more pain we've had, the bigger our purpose, because nothing cracks you open more deeply or more fast, or gives you more wisdom. Like, the reason I know in my 40s what I know is because I've lived 1,000 lifetimes in this life, and I've experienced so much difficulty that has, that pressure has created a diamond inside of me that I've decided to turn it into. But I really come into that awareness, and then I look at what are the beliefs that I have about myself or life. So I call it the ABCs of healing, that I think anyone can kind of start their journey just to take that first step. So having the awareness, what's that biggest problem? When's the first time I remember feeling like that? What are some of the things that have happened to me that I think might have contributed to that? Now I go into the B's, like, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about life? Like, I'll give examples for myself. Like, life is always going to be hard. I'm always going to have to work harder than everyone else. When I was younger, because I went to so many schools, I actually didn't know I was smart, and I didn't even know I was that smart until I went to college and I did an IQ test. And then I realized, like, oh, I actually am okay. Like I'm considered intelligent, or, so it was interesting that, like, sometimes we need that. And you can even ask, like, a best friend, like, what's something, even a positive way. Like, if you have someone who, maybe not your mom, she might gaslight, she might tell you how beautiful and amazing you are. Not my mom wouldn't have, but somebody's mom would. Uh, like, so, but, like, someone who knows you, sees you, like, so you can really see those beliefs, like, challenged. So, like, let's say you have a couple negative beliefs about yourself. See if there's anyone around you that can, if you've got any close mates or anyone that you trust, a sibling, say, like, what are your favorite things about me? Or what are some positive things you see in me, to get that outside, like, that pause, like, real loving validation. And now I go to the C. And the C is, like, how do I start clearing that? Like, how do I clear it? How do I challenge it? So it's like challenging it when it comes up in my mind, and then clearing it with, when I feel that, breathing through it, dropping into my body, feeling it. We cannot heal what we cannot feel. You can also just Google EFT tapping. It's a form of energy psychology. It's very good for calming us down. There's so many things. Take a walk if you're having a really bad trigger. Sometimes if we're in fight or flight, if we just complete the stress cycle, that can calm us down enough to get our brain back online. So there's so many simple things, but like that awareness, the beliefs, and then what are the things that help you clear your head and your body? So that could be as simple as like affirmations, breath work. And I don't like silly affirmations of like, I'm a millionaire. My affirmations are always like, somehow I always get through this. You know, like I just wanted to get myself, like I always tell my clients, like get yourself just one step out of where you are. If you're in the pits, if you're in hell, like get one rung up. So I've been in the lowest points of life has to offer, you know, death, divorce, illness. We had like horrible wildfires here in LA. Like I didn't know if I was going to live. Like the sky was black. Like so, like in the in that moment when like my apartment, like my flat was literally like I have these huge like windows from ceiling to floor, and it was like it was just black smoke, and I was like, okay, somehow I'm gonna make it out of here. I don't know how. I can barely breathe, but somehow I'm going to make it out of here. So I always kind of explain that to people. Like, it doesn't have to be these like silly, grandiose things. It can just be like, okay, this too shall pass, even, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
somehow I'm going to get through today, or in this moment, I'm okay. Just in this moment, like, yes, that horrible thing happened, but in this moment, I'm okay. And those are some, I guess, easier steps to start with.
When you spend a lot of time with clients and you listen to them and you feel their pain and you're sort of part of their story for the period that they're with you. So obviously clients aren't generally coming to you to say how wonderful everything is. I assume they're coming to you with some sort of trauma or things are difficult. They want things to be better. How
Mm-hmm.
how, how do you how do you sort of protect and nurture your own mental well-being to make sure you're not carrying their trauma with you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I was very lucky to have a professor in graduate school who actually worked in the jails. And so
Okay.
she taught me immediately before I ever even started this work about energetic boundaries.
Hmm.
And so that's really like, just remembering that like nothing is on me to hold and to solve, and how to like hold space outside of myself. Like, because empathy, and one of the best analogies she gave me that I love to share is that there's a difference between empathy and compassion. Empathy is I'm in a boat with someone I love and they fall out of the boat and I jump in, and now we're drowning together, right? Now neither one of us can swim, we're pushing each other down. And that's what most of us do. And that's great. Empathy is very necessary. It's actually a high desirable thing you want in a love partner. You want them
Hmm.
to feel your pain too. But if you're going to help someone, you can't. Compassion is staying in the boat, staying dry, keeping your wits about you, and throwing out the life ring. And so we have to, in this work, or any, whether you're a nurse or a doctor or healer or helper, and even EMS, emergency medical services, you always have to stay in your compassion. You can't be in it with them. You have to be holding the space for them to have the experience. And I think having so much of my own trauma, like I truly believe, or so much of my, like having been through so many of my own difficult experiences, nothing
Yeah.
shocks me, nothing surprises me. I never have any kind of judgment. My clients love that about me. And I always think like, wow, like, my energy is so much more around reverence than like, oh, like that's so sad for you. It's like, wow, like you lived through that and you're still here. And I've heard horrendous things, from war to rape to you name it. So I feel like that's one of my gifts, is just having been through so much and seen so much. And I joke with my clients sometimes, like when they're like, "Oh, it's bad" or something. I'm like, I don't care what happened. I don't care if you did an ounce of cocaine, knocked off a liquor store, and stole a car. Like, I just want to figure out why.
It's an incredible talent to have. It really is. So you talked about um, exploring the world of dating apps and being a little bit sort of horrified by what you found. So what does a good relationship and healthy intimacy feel like for you today?
Oh, it feels like real connection, someone who actually sees you and knows you, and that you can show yourself the good, bad, and the ugly,
Mm.
or show who you truly are, the good, bad, and the ugly, and they can too, and that you love them anyway. Because that is the only real love, is if someone sees all of you and loves you anyway, then you are loved for who you are instead of for presenting who you are not. Because if you present your facade and they fall in love with that, you're never going to feel truly loved. And I think that's a big thing I'm seeing in the world today, is like everyone wants to have this perfect version of themselves out there. And yes, we all want to be our best selves. I am absolutely. But it's like at the end of the day, I'm not perfect. And like the man that I am with now, the guy that I date, like we know each other. Like I know all of his ugliest parts, all of his past mistakes, all the horrible things he's ever done, and he knows the same about me. And we have that level of intimacy.
For people that perhaps have been in a relationship for, as you were, sort of 20 years or
Mm-hmm.
25 years, 30 years, there can be a tendency to almost end up feeling like flatmates or
Oh yeah, I
friends
did.
that are sharing an apartment, or and that sort of intimacy and things of that you had at the beginning have sort of changed because life gets in the way. Kids and menopause and erectile dysfunction and work and
Absolutely.
stress and lots of things. So lots of things. So perhaps you're probably not having the intimate relationships that you were having 20 years ago, which is fine. But if perhaps you don't want to be flatmates, you do want to have a physical relationship. How do you, when perhaps you haven't talked about it for a few years or maybe ever, and you just go to bed at night, you just fall asleep together, or even in different separate rooms or whatever. How do people bring the intimacy back, or how do they almost create a
Yeah,
safe space
revive
to
it.
have the conversations?
Yeah, I think the conversations are difficult, and that sucks. And I definitely have been in that before. Or, I was with
Mm.
someone for 20 years, and that
Yeah,
just that happens. It's like you don't even mean to. It's like all of a sudden it just starts to slip, and all of a sudden you look and you're like, "Wow, I don't think we've slept together in a month." Like how did that happen? And then a month, like, and that just yeah, like they call it married roommates, especially in a marriage.
yeah,
And
no,
so I've actually really tried to understand this because I think that sex is such a healthy part of a relationship and connection, and it's actually what bonds you. Like you release oxytocin, and so you actually need that physical connection. So a couple things. The Gottmans are the top therapists in the world on this, and they talk about how to keep a relationship alive. So I've studied this a lot, and
mhm.
one is actually talk every day, like 15 minutes, eye contact, touch each other, hold hands. Like you have to create intimacy. All physical intimacy is built on emotional intimacy. So I have to feel connected to you, to especially for feminine more than masculine. Men typically, and again, people always fall outside of this. I'm actually more like a man, but most men need to connect physically to feel emotionally connected. And most women are the opposite. They need to connect emotionally first to want to connect physically. So intimacy starts outside the bedroom, but I always joke with my guys that I work with, if you want more sex, ask her how her heart is today. And do that. Like, if you want to get her into the bedroom tonight, start it at breakfast because it's going to take, I think we forget, and I did too, and I get it, like that we have to always keep dating and becoming curious about that person and connecting with that person. And I know life happens and it's difficult, but some very easy things is have a weekly date night. Focus on you guys. Remember, the kids are very important, but they are going to leave. And who are you going to be left with? That dude, that girl. Like that's, we prioritize the children over the relationship, and it really should be the opposite because children who come from a healthy relationship are healthier. And that's who you're going to end up with, stuck with, is that person. If you're unhappy in the relationship, go to therapy. Most people go 6 years too late. Most people end up in therapy by the time their relationship is over, and they're in therapy ultimately to it just ends. So I always say like therapy is a good sign that shows you're fighting for the relationship. Women tend to bring up issues more, and this can be very frustrating for men because they feel like I'm always doing something wrong. if she's bringing it up, she's actually trying to fix the relationship. And because she's more intuitive and emotional, she's going to sense the issues that maybe you don't see. So I always ask my guys to try not to take that personally or feel too defensive. The number one predictor of divorce for women is when they become quiet. It's always very shocking for men. A lot of my friends who are relationship therapists talk about this. Like, guys will come in and say, it came out of nowhere. Like, she wasn't telling me anything was wrong, and all of a sudden she asked for a divorce. It's like, well, that was your sign, was she didn't say anything anymore.
Yeah.
But weekly date, talk, every day, like have what we call like a check-in, an emotional check-in. I do, like, my boyfriend and I already do this now because, like, I'm not developing a relationship without it anymore. It's like we ask, like, what was an emotion you had connected to us today? What was something that happened in your day? Like, what are we committed to tomorrow? How, what's one thing I did? What, like, even you could do it once a week on a walk. Like, what's one thing I did well? What's one thing that made you feel loved? What's something I did that didn't really work for you? It didn't make you feel loved. And to have that honest conversation, to get used to having those things. But trust me, I was in that relationship where we didn't talk about those things, and then I had to bring it all up. And so I know it's more uncomfortable, but a great way to bring those conversations up, especially around sex and intimacy, is kind of like, hey, I heard a podcast today and they talked about this, and I was really thinking about us, and I want to connect with you again. Or I missed that part of our lives. Or remember when we first got together and how things were. Like, we can get it back. It's not easy, but
Yeah.
emotional intimacy. So talk, connect, touch, and eye contact are huge for building oxytocin again. The bond can come back, and also have fun together. Like, do something fun together. Go to a new restaurant. Go take a walk for a beach. Like, do something that brings joy.
Yeah, it can be small things, can't it? But it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We're reaching that stage in our marriage. So my daughter went off to college in September, and my son's got 2 more years of school, then he'll be gone. And yeah, so we'll sort of look at each other in 2 years' time and think, oh, you're here. Oh, it's just us. Oh gosh, what happened? So part of me thinks, gosh, we'll either go back to naked Saturdays,
Yeah.
or we'll think, oh, okay, but it was all about the kids then. Which neither of us sort of want, but I can feel you can sort of stumble towards that without, and it sounds really terrible, without putting the work in. It sounds like you shouldn't have to work at it, but you do have to.
You
You do have
do.
to give energy to something you want to feel something back from, I think.
Yeah. I think of how hard we work when we're dating.
Yeah, yeah,
We get dressed up, we care, we plan a fun date. Like, one of the best things, like, one of my mentors when I was younger that I worked for, his name was Frank Foreman. I'll never forget. He's the best guy I've ever known, but he was the happiest married person I'd ever met. And him and his wife had been together for like 30 years by the time. And he used to, when I met her, he would call her his girlfriend. And I literally thought it was his girlfriend because of the way they were with each other. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, you guys have three boys together. You've been married for 30 years, all these kinds of things. And I said, what's the secret when I got married? And he said, never stop dating. He's like, I still get dressed up. I still take her out on dates. I still tell her she's beautiful, all these things. And I was like, and now
yeah.
that I look back, like, he is so right. And it doesn't, how do I say this? The grass is greener where you water it.
That's yeah, I like that. My final question for you, and you've been so generous with your time, especially with the mess at the beginning. Thank you so much. But you've there's two things, I guess. You've been through so much, and you've become and achieved so much. I wondered if you knew what the future holds for you. Do you have are you a sort of planner? Right, I'm going to write a book in 2 years' time. I'm going to have my TV program in 5 years' time. I'm going to do. Are you a planner, or do things happen?
Gosh, I used to be such a huge planner, and it was part of my, like, kind of control perfectionism issues.
Yeah,
And so I've had to find that balance between, like, planning and feeling like having big goals was making me feel like enough. And I've really
yeah.
relaxed to where things at this point just kind of come to me. But I am finding that happy balance between allowing life to show up and to see what opportunities come to me, and
Mhm.
also making some things happen. So I do have my goals of, like, I am working on a book. I would like to have more programs to help, as many people as I possibly can, because I find that I have a unique way of doing that.
Mm.
So I have, like, these kind of bigger overarching goals, but I've found that it's great to have those goals, but be very flexible in how you reach them.
Perfect. I'll put lots of links to your content, to your fabulous website in the show notes. And I just want to thank you so much for your time. You've been incredibly generous with both the time and your willingness to sort of share the not always wonderful parts of your life. But look at where you are today. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we could have 10 more conversations about so many things.
So easily, yeah. Yeah, we should do a part 2. I'd like that.
Yes, for sure.